Quentin Tarantino recently announced The Movie Critic as his 10th and final film as a director. While fans were excited, the news was also the final nail in the coffin for another QT project, a balls-out, R-rated Star Trek. Let me explain. Back in 2017, the creator of Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs pitched an idea to J.J. Abrams for the beloved sci-fi franchise. J.J. loved the story and put it on the fast track at Paramount. Mark L. Smith, screenwriter behind The Revenant, was hired to flesh out Quentin's vision. This was highly unusual as Quentin, up until this point, famously only directed screenplays he'd written himself. Roger Avary received a stories by credit for Pulp, and Jackie Brown was based on the novel Rum Punch by Elmore Leonard. But even in those instances, the actual scripting was done by Tarantino himself. Just as surprising, this was the first time Quentin would be tackling a major cinematic IP. He once flirted with directing Pierce Brosnan in a James Bond film, but that never panned out. Although his ideas for that franchise did lead to the reboot with Casino Royale. What, you may be thinking, would a Tarantino-directed Star Trek look like? While an official synopsis was never revealed, we have been given strong clues over the past 6 years. In a 2021 interview with the Bulletproof Screenwriting Podcast, Smith says he spent hours at Quentin's house watching old gangster films. They would laugh at the bad dialogue, but also talk about how it would bleed into what he wanted to do. Kirk and the rest of the original characters would be in it. According to Smith, the movie would have been its own episode, a very cool episode. There's little time travel stuff going on. It's really wild. While old gangster films and a current-day Star Trek film might sound like a random pairing, it's actually been done before. The original series, which Quentin is famously a huge fan of, once aired an episode titled A Piece of the Action. It was the 17th episode of the second season, and had Kirk, Spock, and Dr. McCoy travel to a planet modeled after 1930s gangster films. The Iosans, a copycat alien race, based their entire civilization on an old textbook about American gangs. The idea seems silly, and after watching the 50-minute episode, I can absolutely guarantee it is. That said, I can also see Quentin, who's been itching to do a straight-up gangster film for years, use the episode as a jumping-off point. To escape the planet, where literally everyone carries a Tommy gun, Kirk and Spock put on fedoras and pinstripe suits. Shatner starts imitating James Cagney and uses slang from the era. The humanoid aliens refer to the crew's phasers as heat. Quentin has publicly gushed over Chris Pine's portrayal of Kirk in the reboot, but specified he's not just another guy, he's William Shatner's Captain Kirk, and Zachary Quinto is literally Leonard Nimoy's Spock. This quote supports the idea that Quentin wanted to adapt a piece of the action, with the current cast. But did Quentin really have his heart set on a family-friendly film? Not a chance. In an interview with Collider, Smith says his vision was just to go hard. It was a hard R. It was going to be some Pulp Fiction violence. Just really the edginess and that Tarantino flair that he was bringing to it. It would have been cool. That does sound cool. So why didn't it happen? Smith goes on to say that Quentin couldn't get over his unofficial number of films. I remember we were talking and he goes, if I can just wrap my head around the idea that Star Trek would be my last movie. The last thing I ever do. Is this how I want to end it? And I think that was the bump he could never get across. The completed script is apparently sitting on Quentin's desk, along with Kill Bill Volume 3 and The Vega Brothers. I guess it's possible Paramount could go ahead with the project. Again, Casino Royale was a direct result of QT's brief involvement with that franchise. But this Star Trek project was tailor-made to be directed by him, so it's doubtful. If you like this video, please like and subscribe for more.